Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I am your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people. I could barely hear you though.
I was low on purpose.
Okay. Oh, all right. Got it. Just making sure. Well, first I want to say that is a lovely shirt. I mean,
part of the No Love crew. Part of the No Love crew. You two can have one.
No Love merchandise is awesome. Matter of fact, I definitely need to do like a sale. I think you just let me know. I'm calling it out right now. I will be doing
You two can have one.
T-shirt sales. We got those brighter summer colors. So those will be on sale. 2 for $20 T-shirts. So I'll put the post on the if you go to No Love Incorporated, if you're listening on the podcast, go to the No Love Inc. Facebook page. You'll see the pictures and the colors so that you can get your shirts and any other details on how to get your respective shirts. So I'll be doing that sale 2 for $20. So let's jump in this topic. Very interesting, necessary topic. The title of the topic for discussion is Go For It. You can't lose what you never had. I'm definitely going to be elaborating on what this means throughout the show, but I want to start by saying or posing a question. So if you were, or as a gambler, if you had to choose, what would you choose? Would you choose the opportunity to win? Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. If you had a chance to choose as a gambler, one of the two, would you choose to 80% chance of winning $1 million or a 20% chance of losing $1 million? So if you had to choose as a gambler, would you choose to 80% chance of winning $1 million or a 20% chance of losing $1 million? And clearly it's rhetorical unless somebody sends their message. But what would you say, Michelle? Just
I'll gamble.
You said, well, if you had to gamble, you had a choice. This is the whole point of the question. So as the gambler, if you had to choose, hey, Miss Lisa, hey, is it Takesha? I do not like to mess up people's name. Takshia, I think, younger. Nice to meet you if I've never met you before.
I am trying to share this while we're talking.
That's fine. Hey, Miss Lisa. So the question, first of all, let me restart. The topic of discussion is go for it. You can't lose what you never had. And I started with posing a question. And the question was, if you had to gamble, I know there's people that don't gamble. I don't gamble. But if you had to gamble and you had to choose, would you choose an 80% chance of winning $1 million or a 20% chance of losing $1 million? Which would you choose? I got a Kevin Livewire Swain said the 80% chance of winning. What about you, Michelle?
I mean, to be honest, I would choose a 20% chance of losing because that means I had it and I knew how to get it. So if I lost it, I would get it again.
James said he 80% chance of winning. So I posed that question, which it's really, and Miss Lisa said 80% chance of winning. My beautiful wife just she went live. Just you're already winning. You don't even need to put anything. I love you. You be careful coming home, by the way. So we just left my daughter's violin concert. So it's actually a trick question because they both mean the same thing. 80% chance of winning is 20% chance of losing. And the whole reason why I shared that it's to frame the whole concept of this show. We tend to always try to avoid losing things. We will always lean towards trying to win, and we always try to avoid losing things. Now, the interesting thing that I find happens is we oftentimes create a loss when there's not really a loss in it. And we prevent ourselves from experiencing things that we could experience because we assume or create this fictitious loss that is not there. So this is what this topic is going to be about today. And this happens in dating, this happens in relationships, this happens in marriage, and I'm going to give you different examples of what that looks like, and then we'll go from there. We'll dive in. Any comments or what have you, please share. For those who are new to the podcast, so we have this culture, which is #9. #9 basically means that you heard something like an aha moment, or you realized something that was true that you did not realize was true prior to the show or us conversing on today. So when you put #9, good to see you, Sean. Sean Watt, haven't seen you in a minute. We got to link up. So if you put #9, that just basically is the number of truth. The number of truth, meaning if you multiply the number 9 by any number, the actual sum of that, the sum total of that, if you add all the numbers of the sum total and bring it down to its simplest form, it will always be 9. Example, 9 times 2 is 18, which is 1/8. So 1 plus 8 is 9. If you did 9 times 11, it would be 99. 9 plus 9 is 18. 1 plus 8, 9. It will always be 9. So the reason why the number 9 is the number of truth is because you cannot escape the truth. You can try to hide from it. You can try to move from it, but the truth is the truth. So if you, during this show, find that you have a #9 or an aha moment, please type in #9 and whatever it is that you had an aha moment about, so that we can further go deep into those type of topics in the future. I greatly appreciate you all's participation. Let's dive into the topic. So a common example of go for it, you can't lose what you never had, is, hey, Gina Wilson, wonderful to see you. It's been a minute. We got to link up as well. So I appreciate you, Mr. Swain, Mr. Kevin Swain. So from a dating standpoint, let's dive into each phase. The dating example of this. So go for it. You can't lose what you never had is the topic of discussion. So what I have all the time when I'm coaching people who are dating, they will be in these situations where they like the guy or they like the gal, and they don't know. I don't know if he likes me, or I don't know if she likes me, and I don't want to put myself out there. And then something happened, and they create this huge story about what could possibly happen if they're basically rejected. If they're rejected, they create this conspiracy theory. Exactly, Michelle. And my response is, and this was so crazy to me, this is what I mean by we create a loss when it's not even there. So there's people that's like, well, I don't know what. Yeah, Michelle is definitely one of those who I had to coach. So. And they're like, well, what do I do? What in the world do I do if I ask him and he rejects me? I'm like, well, first and foremost, are you with him or her now? And they're like, no. So you're not with them now, and you're concerned as to what would happen if you ask them out and they reject you. Exactly what's happening now is what would happen. You won't be with them. That is the worst thing that could possibly happen. You didn't lose anything. You started from where you are. Ronald Godsey, it's been a minute. God bless you, brother. Good to see you, sir. So we have people that are scared to ask people out, and because they're scared that they're going to get rejected in their mind, they're going to lose someone. Myron Campbell, good to see you, sir. They're going to lose someone, but in actuality, you didn't lose anything. All you did was start from scratch. So we have people that are missing out on opportunities to actually have a gain because their fear of a fictitious loss. And the crazy thing about it is people want to get into a relationship, which is actually the thing that you have no idea as to what would happen if they did say yes, versus knowing exactly how your life will be if they say no. You have all the evidence as to what your life or your relationship would be without the person or without the yes. But the real, if you want to put it in the terms of scary or fear, the real scary thing is what the heck is going to happen if they say yes? That is where the unknown lies. That's where the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Miss Downs, good to see you. The actual
the
loss of control of the situation. Yeah, the vulnerability comes from if they say yes is where, and I don't want to put fear in the situation, but I'm bringing up the reality of, like, you don't know what would happen if they say yes. You know what would happen if they say no. I have people that say, they go into these long drawn out stories. I'm going to be the cat lady. I'm never going to have anybody. I'm like, I don't know how old you are right now, whoever that person is that's listening. Emmanuel, good to see you. How you doing, Frat? Miss Tawanda, nice to meet you. I don't know what in the world how old you are right now, but however many years you had at this point, you know exactly how life will pan out up until this point, with or without the man, with or without the woman. So you don't lose anything by putting yourself out there. Michelle, you seem like you have something to say. Go ahead and share.
I had to write it down so I didn't forget. Because the question is, are you worried about losing or changing the dynamic, which is something I think we could talk about later. But having been that person who totally is afraid of taking a risk because I might lose what I am comfortable with, like you said. But I think it's like you said, but you'd be more comfortable with what you have because you know it. And I'm going, yeah, but in my mind, I've already played out the story of what will happen if they say yes. So I'm really afraid of losing the story that I've created. That's what I'm really afraid of. Like, I've created, like, oh my God, it's going to be so fabulous if he says yes and we're together forever. And that's in my mind, but that's what I'm afraid of losing.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because even that thought process. So say you're not thinking about the loss. It's scarier to be thinking about the gain, because remember how we had this show about expectations. So in your mind, you created this story. So now he or she says yes, and now they don't live up to that story, and they're a disappointment.
Together. And then, like you said, you don't know that for sure.
Exactly.
In your mind, you're like, this is the love of my life. If we got together, it would be the epitome, but you don't know.
You have no idea. What you do know is how life is without the yes. That is the thing that you know. That's the thing you literally have control over. But yet
or what you might be running from is the current life.
Exactly. Running from.
Running crazy.
Yeah, we go crazy about the possibility of them saying no when you already know what comes with no. And what I want from the end of this show is for you to gain power in making decisions or putting yourself out there, because you already know the worst thing that can happen. You already know it. And we're creating these fictitious losses, and we're really losing out on opportunities to have something. So let's transition
to testimony as we go along through the night, because to me, this is like grown from faith to faith, to be honest, because I absolutely have gotten to the point where I'm comfortable with, I know love. I'm okay by myself. I'm all right in my skin. If I don't have a man, I'm good.
Yeah.
But that hasn't yet, for me, cured the vulnerability issue, right? So while I'm comfortable in myself and not running towards something because I have to have it, there's still, like you said, there's a risk to take, to be vulnerable to somebody and put myself out there and say what I really feel. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
And that's why we have these type of conversations. Because I really want to address this, because, like you said, the vulnerable. I hear that so much. It's the vulnerability. Like, what is the? I always ask, what is the? I want to hear the worst possible thing that can happen. If they say no,
pain. At the end of the day, it's pain. That's all. However it manifests.
Is that a decided pain, or like, what is the pain? Like, is it a physical pain? Are they going to say no and just stab you? No. Like, are they going to shank you? Like, what happened? Where is?
Okay, so it goes back to my point. Like, I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for the world. But there's a pain of losing the fantasy, the idea, and the hope. And those three things if you're unhappy in some area and have put hope in this person or this relationship, or have fantasized and had this fabulous fantasy, or had an idea, like some people are in love with being in love, right? So if that feeling is gone, now there's a loss and a pain and a void. So for me, pain and void are kind of connected, but no, it's that I don't think it's a physical pain, but it's definitely an expectation challenge. It's about managing your expectations and getting your script together and saying, hey, like you're saying, is it 80% loss or 20% win? Like either way,
That's good.
you win by
Yeah.
taking the risk. You win.
Man, Jason, it's been years. I hope life is treating you well. Miss Beverly, good to see you. How you doing?
Welcome,
Elon?
welcome to the fam.
Good to see you. Elon, good evening, brother. We'll talk later. So the show is Go For It. You can't lose what you never had. Michelle, you said some great things. You said you can lose the fantasy. You can lose the idea. You can lose the hope. The interesting thing about it, in which I'm trying to help people look at, so that for one, you're making an educated decision, is the whole picture. Because every single thing that you listed, fantasy, idea, hope, are all the things that if they say yes, you could lose. So there's no more fantasy if they say yes. It's the actual thing. The idea that it's
no, you're assuming that they're gonna say yes. If they say no, say I asked you out and you say no, that's like,
all right. So it's
my fantasy is
granted,
gone.
now granted, there are definitely people that are afraid of success, and that's a whole nother show. But in this case, I'll say for the majority of the time, these are people avoiding rejection. That is their loss. It is not avoiding an opportunity. It's avoiding a rejection, the hurt, like the Brother Reese said. He said emotional pain, because remember I asked, well, what is the worst thing that can happen? Emotional pain. Even that is a decision. That's a decision, which is why we start this show, and we're going to go back and we'll refer to the actual no love triangle, which y'all probably can see behind me. The foundation is being enough, self-love. So if you have self-love, for somebody to not add themselves to your lives, that means that you still have not lost anything. So the emotional pain or what have you, I count it as a gain of my time. I could have been wasting a lot of time. So this is what I mean. Like, this is how my mind works, but I want to share the actual control and the perspective that it gives you from having that type of thought process. And that's why I want you to see the whole side of it, because anything that you can say from the worst case scenario is pretty much the same thing that you can say if they say yes, or the opposite side of the quote unquote loss. So I really need us to really start thinking about this, because we're missing out on opportunities. So we're going to move into the relationship and the marital issues that we have with this. So sex, this is big. Like, I have so many people that I have to deal with and counsel that are sexually frustrated because, again, the fear of a loss. I'm not going to ask her to do that for me, or I'm not going to ask him to do that for me. So now you don't get it at all, which you already know what that feels like, because you don't even ask for them to do that for you. And it's like, I'm blown away. So again, let's get back to the worst thing that can happen. Worst thing is they say, hey, nah, I ain't doing that. But you already know what.
This goes back to a previous conversation that we had. It's really like, no is really not a rejection. It kind of goes back to that when we were having a conversation about the person you're about to marry and asking them, how do they see this relationship playing out, right? Yeah. So the difference or the no or the disconnect is not like a death. It's just an opportunity to revisit and reposition and have a conversation. So from what you're talking about, just thinking about it, it was like you said, ask for what you want having sex. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I don't want to do that. Well, hey, why not? You know, it's clearly like we both want to be here, so let's talk about it.
But the crazy thing about this whole sex thing is, because we typically avoid requesting what we want because of the fear of rejection, I find that probably 8 times out of 10, both parties want the same thing, but they're both scared. So they're both not satisfied in the bedroom. because they won't go and ask for that particular feeling or sensation or whatever maneuver, move, whatever you want to call it. Or I'm like, so I even have to get them to. So it's like you're both sexually frustrated because neither one of you wants to say, hey, I prefer for you to do this, or even guide them in that direction. People won't even do that. They won't even. All right, so while you're in the act, let's go ahead and kind of maneuver them to that particular space. We're already here. Let's see how this works out. So you'll probably find that he or she likes that. They do.
Or likes pleasuring you, or they like the reaction they get from you, which will motivate, some more, right? Like,
so we definitely going. We have to, within the next 2 weeks, we're gonna have a sex show. We have to have a sex show because I'm so upset.
I have to have a sex show.
Sexually frustrated. So we're definitely gonna have to dive into that topic because that's very near to my heart. People have to enjoy each other. But I'm gonna move on before it ends up being that particular show. But let me go over these comments. One, Mr. Kevin Swain said, "Can't stress what you can't control." James Reese said, "What if she asks for something you are moral against and it makes you lose interest?"
It's the opportunity to have a conversation, right?
Then you know what you're dealing with. Like, see, this is how all right. So would you rather not know what you're dealing with, or would you rather know what you're dealing with? That's my thought.
It's a trust situation. We're in a trusting environment. We should be able to say
these comments and these thought process. All it says is that you're comfortable with being with someone that you rather not know, as opposed to being with someone you do know. I mean, are we literally thinking about what we're saying here? If we're scared that our mate won't be receptive to what we like, or we're scared that our mate will not have the same moral values as us, first, that shouldn't be your mate. If y'all have moral value issues, that should have been your choice prior to making them your mate. This is why we started the actual
conversation. Should have walked through some things.
Exactly.
Right.
So when we talk about when you're deciding who your mate is, you should be choosing based off of morals, values, character, their character, things that are not physical. It should be foundational stuff. So if you're in a predicament where you're concerned that the person that you're with might not be morally aligned with you, you already failed, and you need to start working on transitioning or move on. So I want to know that, and for us to be in predicaments where we're not even with a person that we're scared that might feel us. For one, now you have to question as to whether that person is really into you, because that's what you're into. You're denying what you're into, which in turn is going to make you frustrated or upset with yourself. Ms. Lisa said, scared to ask because of fear of being judged. That's a great point. James said, great point when I responded back to him. Go ahead, you tapping your lip. That you got you thinking. Go ahead, share what you got to say.
Because if there's a level of fear on that level, then are you still in the relationship as your representative? When you're dating, you're dating your representative. So have you not taken down the mask and be like, this is me? Because
so that's what I'm saying.
I can't put up the representative.
We're talking about marriage or relationship right now.
Yeah, but people stay married to the representative for like a year.
If you're with someone that you're concerned that they will judge you, there's already a problem that is not being addressed. You're with someone that you're questioning whether they like you for who you are, when you should have chosen them.
You're questioning yourself, because again, it goes back to another conversation we had. If you're afraid of being judged, that could quite possibly be reflective of your own insecurity, because they may not judge you, but you don't know because you haven't asked them.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. You don't even know. You don't know. And again, we're having the same issues on both sides. So that person is doing the same thing that you're doing typically, and y'all both want, y'all typically want the same freaking thing, and it's so frustrating. And I apologize for yelling, but this really bothers me that people are in predicaments where they cannot be loved fully.
Loved and
what I mean by loved it fully, I mean love because you are being yourself and you are being received as yourself. Or you are, or you're finding out that you're not loved. It's just like that phrase, like you don't lose a friend, you realize you didn't have one. So we need to actually like put that stuff out there so that for one, you can know that you're loved. And the fact that you are questioning whether you should share it or not, even it subconsciously, you don't feel like you're accepted as who you are. Just the fact
accepted unconditionally, right?
Yeah.
Like part about what's cool about our friendship, right, is as it has evolved, my insecurities about being judged or not being good enough or vulnerability or whatever have all come to the surface because you come at me from an accepting standpoint. Like, so even on my worst day where I'm tripping, and you call me on it sometimes, or I call you, we have those kind of heartfelt conversations. It's coming from an unconditional place. So you're never like, I'm going to just jet on you because you've now disappointed me in some way that I just can't ever recover from. It's kind of like that you're human and you are flawed.
Yeah.
And
you got Miss Lisa said, true. That's what I mean, Michelle. You got to ask for what you want or you will never know. You better say that. And if there was a snapping emoji, it probably would have been there. Hey, Auntie Debbie Tillman. So yeah, this is I have to help and coach people through this and counsel them through this all the time. And if you cannot openly express who you are with your mate, there's multiple things that are happening. One, you don't know if you're really loved because you have not shared who you really are with that person and been received and accepted for who you are. So that goes to the whole judge statement. Two, you oftentimes will end up resenting a person that can't even fix what it is that they don't know they have a problem with. So now you have expectations in your mind that aren't being met, and you're frustrated with this person who doesn't even know that they're not doing something or they're doing something wrong because you won't speak. So you are really the reason why you are having a crappy relationship. It's you. It's not until you share and you know that it makes sense for you to even be upset. Like, you don't even have the right to be upset. Go ahead, Michelle. Closed mouth don't get fed, said Kevin Swain. Closed mouth don't get fed. They sure don't, Kevin. Sure don't.
I have been on both sides of this, so I'm kind of torn, and that's because I love both of me. I love that person that made some crazy mistakes, and I love this one who's very awakened.
I have to. All right. So I have to always put this disclaimer in. I'm passionate because I too, like Michelle, am talking about both sides, and I know how miserable I was on the other side, and to experience the other side, knowing how miserable I was because of lies that I told myself. This is called no love, not no like. All right, and people that you like are people that you try or you want to like. You might put up your quote unquote best foot forward or use your corporate or whatever you want to call it. You do all this stuff to get someone to like you, to win you over, but you lose yourself in the process. And that's not what this is. #9 is truth. And if you're not telling people who you are, then that's not being truthful to your mate, nor is it being truthful to yourself. And you're living a lie and you're not experiencing love because you did not share with that person who you are and get received by them because they don't know you. So now, again, you're either miserable or you are resenting the person that has no ability to fix what they don't even know is going on.
So this is what I was saying. So my pre no love, before I knew, no love. So was definitely in a situation where I wasn't asking for what I wanted. I had a box around what I expected it to be. And honestly, this relationship checked several boxes, but not the core box. It checked several boxes, but not the love box, right? So you settle. There's a settling component to this whole conversation where you're saying, I allowed myself to get this deep into a relationship that we have at least become codependent, and I've settled and didn't share myself But now at some point in that relationship, and I'll speak for myself, you stop settling and you go, why am I muting myself? Why am I not letting myself be heard? Because I'm not in a place where someone will give me the space to be accepted or whatever. But then you start getting resentment, and that snowballs until you get to, you know what, I'm out of here. And you're right. You didn't give this person a chance to address your concerns because you got frustrated. You got like, why are you not? Why are you not? But it's all in here. It wasn't a here. It wasn't a let's have a conversation. You're frustrating me. Stop frustrating me. It was you're frustrating me. Stop frustrating me. I don't like it. Now I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. And then the other person, there's hurt feelings and all this stuff because they're triggers, right? So all of this is coming from, there's something about the exchange that triggers you not wanting to talk or triggers your fear that says, I'm afraid of loss. There's maybe you need to learn what your inner script is saying. And I'm just saying from my experience, that previous person, she was broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was, but now I haven't come to knowing love, just peacefully possessing and knowing love allows for a lot more healthy conversation because there is a fear of loss because at the end of the day, I got me and God, we're going to be all right.
But see, this is why, and that's why we have to always, and I appreciate you sharing that with me a few weeks ago to make sure that I'm pointing to the no love triangle so people can understand where we are in the triangle, because all of this stuff stems from the foundation. And it's so funny because everyone gets the same, if they hire me one-on-one, they get the same exact process. We're going to start at the dating phase. They're like, well, we're married. Why are we talking about dating? I'm like, because this is where your marriage went wrong. You have a single problem, which is why you have a marital problem. So we have to figure out where your issue with yourself is.
What the triangle pieces are?
I don't, hold on. I'll do this.
Visual aid. Very valuable.
All right. So here's the no love triangle, which is probably terrible for you to try to look at right now.
No, it's clear.
At the bottom, the foundation is self-interest. And that's where you start. That's where you are dating yourself, learning yourself, who you are, what you love. If you want an in-depth description of how this triangle breaks down, you would have to go to the first show, which you can go to any platform, whether it be YouTube or any podcast stream. The second portion is selflessness, which means after you learn yourself, love yourself, and you pick someone who loves you because you've presented yourself and you realize that they love you for who you are, now you take the time to use that same process to learn them as a person, the same way that you learned yourself, so that you can learn how to respond to them accordingly. Typically, people, opposites attract. So what happens is you're so into you that you think by treating that person the way that you want to be treated, that will make them feel loved, when in actuality, they prefer typically the opposite. So you have to learn what they want and treat them accordingly, not the way that you want to be treated, in order for that relationship to evolve into a better relationship. Then after that, you have to, which will make for a successful relationship, and then it lead to a marriage. And from that marriage, you would have to, in order for that to remain a thriving and growing or evolving marriage, you would have to self-evolve. So it's self-evolution is the third portion of the triangle. So first is self-interest, the foundation. Then you move to the selflessness, which is learning the other person so you can treat them accordingly. Then last is self-evolution. When you are married, you do not want to be the same exact person that the person fell in love with, because people get bored with things that they know every single thing about. So if you evolve, I'm not saying change, I'm saying evolve and grow into a better you consistently, whether that's spiritually, mentally, whether that's physically, through health or what have you, those things will allow for you to grow and become a new person to your mate, which in turn will force you right back to the foundation, because now you have to learn yourself again. You have to start learning and paying attention to what you like and love, so that you can now articulate that to your mate, which in turn allows for them to be able to do the same thing for you through the selflessness phase, because they know themselves, which they can articulate, which oftentimes, and I can tell you, and I'm talking to a lot of grown people don't even know themselves. So they're looking for somebody to bring them happiness, and they can't even bring themselves happiness because they don't even know themselves and what they like or dislike so that they can articulate or even ask for what they want. So I'm going to bring that down so we can go a little bit more, but I kind of said.
So link this back for me. So
Yeah.
On what leg of the triangle are we when we are going for what we know or what we want?
When you ask for what you want?
Is that the self-interest or the
if you ask for what you want, you are for one, you're proven to love yourself because you know that's what you want. Whether now that can be conceit or vanity, but it's definitely self-interest. I'm just so I mean that's just the reality. Because there's some people that's just selfish people, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna get mine. I don't care about you or whatever." Which is why those persons may get a person because they have the external ability to gain a mate. But once that other person realizes how selfish they are and how they're not willing to learn about that person, learn that person through the selflessness journey. That's why people have a hard time getting from dating to relationship to actually someone marrying them, because they're like, I don't know that I want you. But if you can get a person to realize that you will be able to love them the way that they prefer to be loved, despite how you prefer to be loved, that will make them want to take that journey. They've already chosen you to be in a relationship, but now the issue is I don't know that they treat me the way that I would prefer to be treated for me to take that extra step, which is marriage. Then we get there in marriage and we start, sometimes we feel that we've arrived and we stay who we were. That's when you know how they're going to sit down. You know what they're going to do when they get home. You know what they're going to do around 9:18. You know how sex going to start. You know how it's going to end. And it's like, oh, Lord, here we go again. And that gets boring. And it doesn't mean that you don't love the person. It's like we are creatures that like interesting new things. That's why people watch sitcoms and stuff like that, and we gotta watch the next Game of Thrones because I like the way that it ended. I want to see what's next. You're not gonna sit there and watch the same Game of Thrones episode over and over and over and over again. That's boring. So you're gonna wait and you want something new. And the same thing we want with our mates. We want them to evolve into something new. We don't want the same thing over and over again. So, yes, as far as what we're talking about today, this is typically an issue that comes from the foundation, which is self-love. You're so concerned about losing the person that, for one, you're losing yourself and you're losing an opportunity to receive what it is that you very well want or even possibly need. So because of that, you miss out on an opportunity, not to mention you miss out on an opportunity for someone to actually, through the selflessness portion, teach you, well, this is why I wasn't doing that. And I thought that would offend you. And there, you really start learning that person because they're going to respond according to your request. So now you know what they like, what you don't like. If that, when we're talking about sex, okay, well, let's go ahead and accommodate your situation right here. You reverse that, take care of me the way, like, there's different ways that all of that can be taken care of. And to be perfectly honest with you, if you really love that person, outside of things that I don't need to really bring into abuse or just something like that is just like, no. Again, you can say no, but again, you know what you're dealing with after you requested it. But typically, especially in the bedroom, if it's done right and if it's done through love, both persons are trying to please the other person. So if you're trying to please the other person, or that person loves you enough to where they're trying to please you, a request in the bedroom should not be a problem.
So being in love with myself has allowed me to celebrate the journey, right? So celebrate the process of exploring, right? So conversations and exchanges are exploring. And currently, like, my whole state of mind is, and even in relationships, is curiosity about what's next without us making assumptions, without having some fantasy in my head playing out or some, like, just the curiosity to give that person a chance to give me an answer so we can explore the options available, like that. that's from a loving place, is that I'm not going to judge you based on your answer. I'm going to consider it an opportunity to learn more about you and build on what we already have, not necessarily worry about fear of loss, or because I'm not, no expectation. And we talked about this. It took a long time to get here, so this was not overnight. But like, not having any expectations really is taking the lid off of the conversation and keeping it open to explore whatever comes back. And that's really coming from a loving place of, I accept you as you are, which means I still have to learn you. I haven't lived your life, so oh my goodness, there's always something new to learn. So there's more conversations to have. So I'm grateful for the journey of bumping into all three sides of the triangle. Sometimes on the pointy side, but but learning something each time. Yeah. Learning something each time. And even in this conversation, you learn something each time.
The beautiful Takayla Lynn and my brother Troy Young, good to see y'all. Topic of discussion today is go for it. You can't lose what you never had. Basically exposing how typically we make decisions or avoid making decisions because of a loss that we create that's not even real. And we started the show talking about how, for example, people will say, Jamal Washington, how you doing, Frat? So yeah, we started by people fictitiously creating a loss and causing themselves to miss out on an opportunity. For example, there's people that won't pursue or ask the person out that they're interested in out of fear of being rejected, when in actuality, they already know what life is to not be with the person because they're already not with them. So you can't lose what you didn't have. Like, you just need to realize that. All right, so the way my philosophy in life is, I never lose. I either break even or I get a bonus. That's how my life is that's how I look at life. I don't look at things from a lose or win. It's a win or break even. That's how my life my life works. I don't have it set up for a loss. So every decision that I make, it's like, okay, I'm going to gain something, even if it's I gained information or wisdom. And like I said, like, you could really the loss to me and keeping this stuff to yourself is a loss of time or wasted time. So now you're sitting around trying to be where he or she is, posing and stuff, trying to wear your best whatever situation so that you can gain the interest of someone that possibly is not even feeling you. Get that mess out of the way so that you can actually see the person that's really interested in you or best for you. Like, get that out of the way. Like, that's just not how my mind works. I'm not a big fan. And the crazy thing about it is we do this stuff thinking we're trying to avoid wasting time, when in actuality, we're really wasting time.
So let me align this like in other areas of your life too, right? So with people and managing, it's kind of one of the management lessons I learned is bad news doesn't get better with time, right? So you should just address it.
Oh yeah.
And move on.
And that's because your imagination, like, you start creating this huge story, which is why you need to attack it really quickly.
Because before the story gets fully written and there's like a 700-page novel that is already written, like, you got to get it in that first 7 to 8 pages.
Exactly.
Like, stop.
It's like it paralyzes you from moving or making a decision. Like, but go ahead, Michelle. I apologize for interrupting, but
no,
that's true.
That's what. If this behavior is in a relationship, and 9 times out of 10, it's in other areas of your life as well.
Exactly. Certainly.
Right. So it's not, the relationship is just a barometer or a very acute expression of the same thing that you're doing in other areas of your life, which is either avoiding confrontation or avoiding fearful, uncomfortable situations. So if you're doing it here, you're doing it other places, and a healing in this area is going to spill over and heal in other areas. And that is the joy of the journey. Is the relationships are the great incubator of all kinds of communication and all kinds of relational things that when you get a healing or when you get an aha moment or a #9 moment, they actually tend to flow out in other areas.
Most certainly. And you said something earlier that that I wanted to make sure that we discussed too. I think it was about not sharing or not sharing, allowing for a actual conversation is, oh, that's what it was. You were talking about how not sharing prevents people from understanding it. And that's why it's, for one, important for you to know yourself, because a lot of people can't even articulate what they like and what they dislike. But at the same time,
they don't know why they're mad. They just, like you said, they act crazy, or their tone changes.
Yeah.
And but it's coming because you can't say it. You show it,
most certainly. It's interestingly enough, it is the persons that have that are in prison that have the lower vocabulary that typically have the highest portion or the extremities when it comes to violence. And I can relate to that frustration, because if you can't articulate what you're thinking, especially when it comes to a hurt, a frustration, or pain, if you can't relay that message yet you want to be understood, that is just a very, very uncomfortable, frustrating position to be in. I mean, it's even evident in our everyday lives. If you come across a foreigner and you come across them and you don't realize that they're a foreigner, and you ask them for instructions or ask them for something, directions or anything like that, and they respond in their language that they don't speak English, typically just out of a reflex, a person will yell louder in their original language the same thing that they asked for of the other person. And that's just evidence as to how we respond. Typically when we yell outside of passion, we're yelling because we want you to understand, but we have yet to shift what it is or how we said it so that the other person can better understand it. So not having the ability to articulate your thoughts or your feelings, that is a very frustrating situation to be in. And the crazy thing about it is, we're talking about people having the ability to articulate their feelings, but they don't, which is giving them the same exact results, because they're frustrated because they're not getting the sex, or they're not getting the guy, or they're not getting the attention, or they're not getting whatever the actual thing is that you refuse to ask or request from your mate or the person that you're interested in. Those things are you're preventing yourself from having them, which in turn is causing you to be resentful, upset, angry, even point blame at a person that doesn't have the ability to adjust.
Oh, he looked at my face, right?
Troy Young, good to see you, sir. He said that's so true. I don't know what I said that Miss Lisa was laughing at. I think that kind of popped up when we were talking about how people start trying to be at the person place, set themselves up, posing and everything, trying to be noticed because they won't say anything. And it's funny because that is very common. Why you don't see me? And we'll talk about that more in sex, but it's very common in the bedroom, whereas the person would prefer to be the sex to be initiated. So they want to have sex, but they prefer it to be initiated by the other person. But the other person is thinking the same thing on the same night. So because both persons won't initiate, they're both sexually frustrated because they won't initiate what they both want. So they both go to bed frustrated without getting any because they wanted to wait on the other person. But it's unfortunate. Fred. My brother Conley just reached out, man. Love you, man. I'll more than likely see you this evening, sir. Okay. But yeah, that the topic of the discussion, which we're about to conclude, is go for it. You can't lose what you never had. What I really, really want people to take away from this is really, really ask yourself, are you losing before you decide not to take the opportunity? And if you do conclude that you're losing, I would really challenge you to draw out the worst case scenario and then say, okay, well, can you live with that? Or would you rather live not knowing whether you are wanted, whether you are loved, whether you could have that actual sexual experience that you're trying to have, or whether he's going to stay for the kids, whether he's going to leave. I have some serious topics and things that come to me. People are being they're concerned that the person is going to leave because of something that happened in the past, or they know that their mate is treating them wrong, but the person has something over them and they don't know how they're going to respond. If they do, it's a whole bunch of things that people are in terrible situations because they're either scared to speak up, they don't love themselves enough to take the loss, and they're scared of something that they the worst outcome being what their current results are, which is not having what they want. So you already know what that looks like. That is the worst case scenario typically, 9 times out of 10. So you already know what the worst case is. Go ahead and try to get the other thing. If they say no, guess what? You broke even. You did not lose. You broke even. You already weren't getting any. You already didn't have them. And that's just the way it is. So you didn't lose anything. Go ahead, Michelle.
I would piggyback on what you're saying with, if you can't lose what you didn't have, spend some time doing an honest assessment of what you do have, or don't have, because don't make the assumption that you shouldn't take the chance to have the conversation when you haven't really assessed what you really have and done that honestly and objectively with yourself. And part of that is understanding what your own self messaging is and what your triggers are and what you're bringing to the table, and taking responsibility for that and owning that, because one of the things that you'll find is that at the root of that is either fear of change, or fear of being alone. And both of those things are at the root, and that not have anything to do with the other person. That's all you.
All you.
And once you can own that and have freedom over the decision because you made peace with that, it makes the pressure of the conversation that much less, because you're going into it understanding and knowing that regardless of the outcome, you're going to be okay. Expect good, right? So assume good intent is one of my things that I have to say all the time. Is like, if you're going into these types of conversations where you know you're going to be vulnerable and you're going to expose some of your heart and you're going to share some of the intimate thoughts or your concerns, assume that the other person, whatever they respond, is coming from good intent. Their intent first is not to hurt you, because that allows you to still stay open and listen.
And if you feel that their intent is you're with the wrong person, count your blessings.
Right, but then that's the assessment. Like, if you assess that this person's all the evidence prior to this, have you been lying to yourself? Like, all the evidence has presented itself and you just didn't see it?
And that's why this is why, and I hate to harp on it, this is why the foundation is the foundation. This is why people who are married and they get counsel from me, we're going to start at the dating phase, because that is about you loving yourself. And when you love yourself, you ask things for and of yourself that you
ask the hard questions when you love yourself.
Yeah, most certainly.
Like, are you doing this to hurt me?
Well, but at the same token, you ask for things that you want, because you're worth having what you want. And the thing about that is, if your fear is that you're going to be alone, and this is the toughest truth that I have to share with most of my clients, especially those who are dating and I'm coaching them. If your fear is that you're going to be alone, that means you don't like yourself. Yet you expect someone else to like you. To say that you don't want to be alone says that you don't want to be with you. Yet you are upset and you're frustrated that other people don't want to be with you.
You don't want to be with you.
You don't even want to be with you. So how can you expect or be frustrated with another person that doesn't treat you right or doesn't want to be with you when you don't even want to be with you? When you love being with you, when you love you, guess what? Other people love being with you. Other people love you. And what's even more crazy about that is, and this is the trick of the enemy, you cannot receive what you don't first give. So what I mean by this is, people are missing out on experiencing love because they won't first love. So they're trying to receive love first, which you cannot even receive adequately if you don't first give it. And the reason why that is because in your mind, until you do it, you don't believe that it can be done. So if you don't forgive someone first, you don't believe that you can be forgiven. So when you mess up, which is why a lot of people don't share their faults or their truths, is because they don't forgive people. So they're thinking about how they would treat the person. I won't forgive somebody if I did this, so I'm definitely not going to tell her or him that I did this. So you prevent yourself from being receiving forgiveness, or even when the person really forgives you, because you don't believe that forgiveness is real, you still don't receive it. So it's not until you first love yourself that you can even really receive love from another person. And you definitely can't give them that because you don't first have it in you. You cannot produce what's not first in you. An apple tree is not going to produce a daggone orange. So you can't produce or give someone something you don't have for yourself, which is why it's necessary for you to do it first. What you don't do first, you won't experience. Point blank, period. If you don't do it first, you won't experience it. You won't experience love. You will not experience honesty. Go ahead.
The love of God first. Like, actually, because I can say, having grown up in the church, having problems with love relationships, I had to go back to my root and realize that I never really believed that God loved me the way that I believed he should. Like, I couldn't give what I didn't have. Like, I had never really took into account, am I really loved? Am I truly, honestly loved? And that's the first relationship. Yeah. Like, that's the most unconditional acceptance you're ever gonna get. And like you said, when you feel it, it's much easier to assume that the other person has the capacity to do the same.
Yeah. Oh my God. Lisa Robinson, she said fear of change / fear of being alone. Good point, Michelle. #9. You got Stefan. Good to see you, sir. I haven't seen you in a minute. We definitely need to link up. I hope you're not overseas. If you are, then I have to wait to link up with you. But
it says, have a side conversation during the podcast. Hi, sir. Did you just have a side conversation during the podcast? Okay.
It says,
all right. I see you.
Loving oneself is one of the most difficult things for many people because they don't understand what they love is, or they have a skewed view on what love is. That's exactly right. So if you are learning love, and this is why, and I'm gonna have to do a show about this. What you see or you learn about what love is, which is why a lot of people are at the altar saying I do to two totally different things. So they're saying the two words that are the same, but their vision of what they're going to experience is totally different because they're typically visualizing what they concluded love is, whether that be through an experience that they had through their parents or other relationships, or what they saw on TV and they said, that's what marriage is supposed to be about. And even though that wasn't what they were experiencing in a relationship, they look for that to come into fruition. So as soon as they say I do and everything happens, they think that those two views are going to come into fruition. And when those start competing with each other, that's when it goes wrong. But yes, and the foundation of what love is, whether it's your faith or not, mine is the foundation of God, love, Jesus Christ, and what he did for me. Like that, just to love me enough to die for me, and to be all knowing and to decide to do it. So that means you saw everything that you're about to do. Typically, when we go through stuff, if we knew our end journey, like even me now, where I'm at right now, had I known I had to go through what I went through to be who I am today, and I can only imagine I'm going to have to go through to be who I'm going to be. But if I was told in the beginning, I more than likely would not have taken the route that I had to go. But to have a God to demote himself to a human being just to die for me because he loves me, that is the ultimate love. And it's evident that love is not something that you do to receive. That is manipulation. Love is to give and not to look for anything in return. It's just to give as an expression to another being that you want to show them how much you do. It has nothing to do with what you get.
Overflow, right? So yeah. That's giving from an overflow, like loving yourself enough to have more than enough to give to somebody else. Yeah. And you're not losing anything by giving it away because you're giving from your overflow.
Most certainly. So I think we've pretty much tackled the actual topic. Any final words, Miss Michelle?
I'm so glad to know love. I'm gonna go for what I know, though. I'm gonna start asking for what I want.
What can you lose? What do you have to lose?
Nothing.
David Jamel said, or Jamel Isaac said, nice plug. Oh, he's talking about the beginning of the show. He must be listening from the beginning. But yes, she's wearing No Love t-shirt. Wonderful. Yes, they are 2 for $20. Appreciate you bringing that up. It did slip my mind. So they're 2 for $20. You can contact me at the No Love Inc. Facebook if you're listening on the podcast at a later date, and I will share how I would disseminate that to you accordingly. As far as my final words, I really, really want us to kind of ask us those challenging questions, figure out like, what are you really losing? Which in actuality, I can assure you, you're not losing anything. And the only thing that you're really losing, if you want to call it a loss, is losing control over the situation, which is a lot of things typically what we're fighting for. We want to have control over the situation. We want to know what's going to happen before it happens. And that's what's preventing us from moving forward. Mike, we're wrapping it up. This is the conclusion of the show. Honestly, I live my life. I either win or break even. There's never a loss. I already know what the opposing side is. I'm living it. So I'm just trying to get to a better predicament. So with that being said, love yourselves. I love you all. I will continue to pray, study, focus, and make sure that I'm serving you all to the best of my ability. I really, really am adamant about people understanding and living and experiencing love on purpose as opposed to by chance. So I'm going to continue to just pour on you. If you have some topics, please type in what things you want me to discuss. But until we meet again, I'll talk to y'all next Thursday. God bless. Be safe. Peace.